So it's been a lot of looting happening in the, like from the highest level, 1.5
for the last 450 years or so.
Yeah, there's a lot of looting,
like that.
And and they're upset that one of their princes married a black lady. That's what they're upset about. So so this is Black Power Magic God. What we're going to talk about with Dash and Bash is pretty much this crazy article, like this is intersecting, because this is actually like a pharmaceutical like CEO guy. Like, he has, I mean, honestly, if he can be greedy, you be a pharmaceutical guy. You don't have to talk about anything. You'd be like, whatever. You can be quiet and make his money. And he came out and he's saying this stuff, and he's been doing these policies for his company. And I want to just show this out for you real quick, Dr. Eugene. It's like, you brought this up. So this guy pretty much, he froze the salaries of 20 executives. Everyone's been talking about the minimum wage, and to really break down the minimum wage, you got to compare it to other things. They compare it to rent.
We're not even talking about maximum wage.
Yeah, we're talking about maximum wage. This is what we're talking about today. We're talking about the salaries of the executives, compared to, they're the lowest worker who works in the basement, whatever. How big is that gap? And that gap has gotten fantastically wide. We're going to talk about it a little later, but we're going to talk about some positive stuff before.
Wait, before we go, I want to touch on that real quick.
Yeah.
Because I want to make sure that the perspective is set for the viewers, right? So the gap between the CEO and the rank and file is growing, right?
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So can you tell me that the CEOs of today are more effective today than they were 10, 20, 30 years ago? Are you telling me that the CEOs are working that much harder than the average worker?
What can they do anymore that they've done?
Yeah, what are the CEOs of today doing that the CEOs of yesterday weren't? And what are the workers of today doing or not doing that they were doing before? Because every economist that I see says that the American worker is more efficient and produces more work than before.
I heard like the productivity for the average worker is going skyrocketed. We're crunching in hours within hours. We're somehow in our sleep doing hours. So it's
right.
So.
I mean, are the CEOs what roles are the CEOs playing today that they weren't playing before that justifies their wages going up on this scale here? And what are today's employees who, by every metric available, their effectiveness is doing this, but their wages are doing this?
In 1 year, we're going to talk one part of American decade we're going to talk about, because all the boomers always refer to this decade, the 70s. As you see in this chart, 1978, the gap between the average compensation, annual compensation for a CEO of the 350 largest companies, whatever that was, in 1978 was 29. Compared to just 2018, which is just 4 years ago, less than that, 278, almost 280 times more, so and in 1978, when the wages, everyone talks about 1978, when I can buy a car and a house and go to college at the same time and juggle while riding a unicycle, that's what people.
Yeah, and only working 30 hours a week.
30 hours a week.
At 40 hours a week, I had this palatial estate. You guys aren't working hard. What? You only working 90, 92 hours a week? Ugh, pshaw.
So, and then you have CEO gains and stock. This is crazy. So even if you're like, oh, look at the stock market, maybe the stock market, it's because they're making stuff for their shareholders. No, they're getting paid way more than what their shareholders, what their stock performance is even considered. This chart is even more interesting. It's to show you they're just pocketing money
And you see the bonuses that some of these CEOs have gotten as they've run the company into the ground.
And you see when it dips in 2008. It dips right. Oh, we fucked up. We got to go back to
but they didn't lower the compensation that much though.
That much. Now it's slowly coming back up. Look at that. It's slowly secretly.
Slowly.
Yeah, look at that.
That's a pretty steep angle, sir.
It's like curving up. It's like, you see, compared to like the 90s to like 2008, that's like, that's rock climbing. That's like some Sylvester Stallone like shit right there. From 1989.
Look from 89 to 95, or from 95 to 2000. That's what that is. From 95 to 2000, man. You better get that climbing gear, that little axe pick, and you got to get the ropes, and you got to tether yourself to the fucking side of that wall, because there's no way that you're going to be able to climb up that wall with just your hands. Sorry, sir. You're not walking up that slope with your feet.
Yeah. This is how high. This is incredible. This to see these charts is crazy, and people arguing about people not worth being paid $15 an hour. Like, can you look at this chart and think about that? It's like
people are more educated today.
Yeah.
People are more efficient. They produce more, but no. We can't give you a pay rate that's still below the poverty line.
Yeah.
Bringing you up to just being in poverty. Nah, we got to keep you at below poverty.
Oh wait. We actually have someone defending the pay gap. We have to watch this. This wasn't part of the segment.
I have to watch a commercial first.
Yeah,
that's why the CEOs are getting paid.
Trying new things and discovering,
because they get paid more for this commercial than the people making it.
Because they're making us watch this shit, and we don't really have that much of a choice, I'm trying to find different random shit to say so that nobody has to actually listen to this shit, and they'll just look at this bullshit moving picture in front of them. Yeah, fuck those guys. I don't give a fuck what they have to say.
Story. And you were asked on the Hill about your executive pay ratio.
He's defending this.
Like, should think about it. And you basically said, I would hope that it's aspirational to our rank and file. Did that
aspirational
when you got back home?
I hope so, because my answer is I am that person. I started at our firm in 1983 at $17,000 a year.
Oh yeah.
And I.
What year do you say?
God, through hard work, got to where I am. So I am that person that looked up and said, maybe if I work hard enough, I can get there.
But if the ratio is what it is, what's the upside limit? There must be a ceiling somewhere.
The ratio is not.
How many fucking CEOs is your company going to have?
The numbers are challenged themselves, Carl, because they're not apples to apples. We've got 200,000 people.
He doesn't even have a human jaw.
In the United States, you have 40,000 people in Mexico. I've got people in the Philippines. I've got
Good
people.
for you, buddy.
And so
are they being paid?
City against a U.S. company, our average employee in the United States makes right at about $100,000 a year.
Let me ask you about something that happened yesterday. You're a traditional banker, 1983. Been around.
1983.
Did you ever think that you would have this kind of silly site called Twitter, and the president would urge the Fed chief to cut rates down to 1, and it would be taken seriously?
I would say today, in those 36 years, Jim, I would say.
Remember the ratio between CEO pay.
My face hurts being stuck with this look on my face.
Remember Dr. Virginius, the ratio between CEO pay and average workers' pay in 1983 was far smaller than what the fuck he's talking about right now. So
okay, pause the video. Pause the video.
I think
Okay. So to recap, the reason why I have multiple private jets and lavish homes with more bathrooms than your entire neighborhood is because it's aspirational to somebody else. See, I'm not enriching myself for my own benefit. No, I want to keep your dreams alive. We have all of these employees in Citigroup. And you know what we're going to do? If you work hard enough, we're going to create 50,000 CEO positions here at Citigroup.
Everyone's a CEO.
Right?
You're a CEO. You're a CEO.
Everybody's a CEO. Right? Is that what we're doing here? Hey, well, if I was able to do it, motherfucker, you stepping down tomorrow and somebody else is going to have a chance at your spot? No.
You take the custodian, the guy who makes the copies.
That is one of the worst. And the thing is, I'm glad that Black Power Magic Hour exists because we can uncover this fucking bullshit. Hey, if you work hard enough, are you telling me that all the people that work at Citigroup are not working hard enough to be CEO?
No, they're not.
Right? Because if you're denying that that's the case, then why aren't they all CEOs then? No, there can only be one. This is Highlander.
You see this conversation, they say nothing about the numbers. They said no.
Nope. I got to hear some bullshit about the reason why I can slap models in the face with my dick is for your aspirations. Every time I throw Kobe beef in my garbage disposal,
Kobe.
I want you to know that you can waste Dom Perignon the same way that I do.
Yeah.
If you just work hard enough.
I just leave my Lamborghini engine running all night.
This motherfucker has not done a day's hard work in several decades since he was making $17,000 a year.
Yeah, when inflation 17,000 a year was way more. I mean, I hate when they always say this.
Yeah, they try to use the real number. Oh, look, that was such a small number.
Yeah.
By today's money.
Yeah.
1,000
in 1983.
I mean, did you see the way his fucking mouth moves? That his body ain't real. He ain't human. That's a prosthetic body.
We'll see this.
When we put out our policy, and it was put out in the form
that is not a human jaw.
That's what happens. You have to bullshit 24/7. That's what happens to your face.
Felt that it was a great move, and again, you just look at yesterday. Closing day of school.
I swear he's from Westworld.
And there were those who were adamantly against it, believing that business shouldn't be taking Second Amendment stances. Ours wasn't a Second Amendment stance. It was simply around what we believed was a push around some best practices that might help a challenge.
But you've got
push around some best practices.
For example, sponsoring an event with the president of Brazil and knowing what he has said about LGBT. I mean, how do you balance all of those things? You're going to get blowback.
I think most importantly, we spend a lot of time making sure our people understand the values of our company. And I hope in the case of that, there's no question in terms of our support, our unwavering
with
support
values?
for our LGBT community. And, in there, we're supporting the Brazilian Chamber of Commerce. We've operated in Brazil for many, many decades. And
you've been doing great for the Brazilian people.
In terms of our stance. But we spent a lot of time, Carl, making sure that we're communicating those messages and that we're clear with our people.
Did anyone earlier this week, I sat down with David Solomon, CEO of Goldman Sachs. We talked a lot about the changes at that institution that are much more focused on the consumer, on building a mass affluent brand and a platform to service more potentially of.
He gets paid so much money, but he can't answer a question directly.
Wasn't this about the pay gap? How did we get here? If this was on Black Power Magic, I would be like, I guess we just end this segment because we're not really on this segment.
No, I would repeat the fucking question. You know me.
Trying to kind of cater.
Yo, he would never come on this show. Michael Corbat or his mechanical body double, whatever the fuck that is we're seeing on the screen.
Typical run-of-the-mill high street, main street consumer bank either. And so from our perspective, we think we've got the ability to combine the best of both, of having the physical presence and being able to provide that experience, and at the same time,
they see consumer banks, they see the front store banks as garbage. So sad.
Was de novo around some experimenting we're doing. We grew $1 billion of consumer deposits online, just kind of experimenting with some new ways of.
He looks like one of those Muppet puppet things.
So you went from there's a huge pay gap. What are you gonna do about it? It's like nothing, and then they moved on to something else.
I swear, if we ever had that dude on our show, and we talked about the pay gap, I would go back to the question, sir. What function do you serve today that is worth so much more than your rank and file?
He's like, Yeah, and then they start talking about what his banking file developed for him, because all the stuff he was talking about the consumer online banking, I doubt he sat there and thought about that and made the HTML code, worked with the developers, did the financial, like, online, like whatever construct computing programming stuff. He had nothing to do with that, trust me. But he's claiming this, but he's making the most money out of everybody. But I want to give so we have that. So we're going to talk about this guy who actually, talks about something he did at his company in 2015. He did this in 2015. So he did it when, like, when it was even more, like, it looked like you were, like, Stalin when you try to do this shit. So 5 years ago, he had a complicated challenge. So pretty much they were losing money, but they still decided to do this thing. They froze wages for all CEOs. God knows how much they were being paid. That don't see that here, but
all executives. I think they only have one CEO.
Yeah, all executives, and then they decided to reach everyone. That they froze all their wages, but rose the wages of everyone else's wages, which is almost 500 people.
Did it say that any of those executives were displaced from their homes? Did they have to go to homeless shelters? Did they have to go to soup kitchens? Or like what like how bad did it get for those executives?
So I mean, he wrote that editorial yesterday in Business Insider, so he must be doing company must be doing great fine, I guess.
So none of them had to like move to like a poor neighborhood or
Section 8 or get welfare or like
right.
Get a W-2 form and to go get a vaccine. That didn't happen to him.
Right. Yeah. I mean, are they getting $1,400 from in stimulus payments? Like, did it hurt them that bad, or or are they driving a late model GLS with all the fixings, or Range Rovers and
so. And it was crazy to me, like, and what we're talking about here, like, the minimum wage should be higher than $15 an hour. We all know this, and even he knows this, and they're trying their best, $16.50. So now their minimum wage is approaching $16.50. While we're fighting over $15, his company is already going to $16.50. Just because of the choice that they made 5 years ago allowed them to do this.
And they also know that to have the best employees and to get the shot at the best, you're going to have to be competitive with your wages.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what's really funny about this, a friend of the show, Louis Rossman and I, we have these debates about the minimum wage and about a living wage. And he always argues that business owners can't do it. Now, let me tell you guys something. Louis Rossman is not a wealthy man. He built Rossman Repair Group from a termite-infested shithole. And he grew it into a small business that a lot of people worldwide respect. Okay? He has 1.5 million subscribers on YouTube. Okay? That's only a little bit less than our 47,000 subscribers here on act.tv. But he has 1.5 million subscribers that respect him. He'll argue that the minimum wage needs to stay low, but then he'll do the opposite of that. I don't think a single employee of his company earns less than $20 an hour. Not a single one. And he's not just giving them that and keeping it moving. No, he's paying for insurance. He gives out bonuses. He gives out all kinds of perks, right? He's a friend of the show. But how do I know him? I used to work for him as his trainer. If I could tell you the things that he's done for me that he didn't have to do, and he's not a large corporation, he's just one guy.
We're pulling teeth for like Amazon. We're pulling teeth for McDonald's. We're pulling teeth for multinational companies. And then they point to like 5 people business owner. What about them? And like Amazon always try to do that. What about them? What about they're gonna wait $15?
Yeah, but Amazon has been trying to kill small businesses for the last 10 years. Been trying to murder the small. Like that is your business model, is to kill the small business.
Exactly. It's right.
Like weird. So when Lewis and I have these conversations,
$1 trillion companies, like.
Yeah, like when Lewis and I have these conversations, he keeps arguing for these people, but he kills his own argument with his own actions. You keep saying blah blah blah, but look at what you're doing, and you're not even 100,000-aire. We're talking about multi-billionaires, and they're saying pay a living wage. And you know what's really funny? If you look at the article that the original article about, the dude talking about why he is paying more than what the minimum wage is,
$50,
and why it's working out, and the mentality, it's the same shit I've been saying on this show, and it's the same thing I've been saying since before the show. If you get a workforce that is not living hand to mouth, and they are not worried. They're not worried about whether or not they're going to be able to make their bills. They're not worried about, living in despair, living in communities with a bunch of other people living in despair. If you're not worried about those things, you know what that frees you to do? Once you've covered the ground level of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, then you can do higher level. You can perform higher level tasks at that point. Now, because people always want to say burger flippers, right?
Actually, can care about your community for once.
It's really funny. One of my partners, she posted a meme on social media.
Their whole neighborhood because they're busy working.
She posted a meme on social media where They were talking about the people who complain about burger flippers getting more than the minimum wage, and then it shows them and what their burgers look like when they do their barbecue thing, and it looks like, and the thing is, their burgers look like the charcoal, right?
I can't tell.
And it's like, you want to talk about this is no skill stuff? Look at what you put out there, and nobody want to eat what you making.
Yeah, look what, and like this to close off, like look what's happening during the pandemic. Like if I go to other neighborhoods where there's more hipster, more younger crowds, it's like a sea of delivery men delivering food everywhere. That shows you that people don't know how to cook. They really know how to cook that well.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and of course, there's a bunch.
These people will make their livelihood doing this. We're shilling these people.
Yep.
So like it's just.
Yep. And the thing is, like, society has changed so much, but the perceptions of essential work still hasn't changed. And again, people just want to, burger flip. Can you flip a burger? No? Then pay that man. Pay him. Because if the quality is not what you think it should be, you get super upset, as if the person that you are getting the service from is getting paid the big bucks. No, like,
and it goes even to even when we talk about someone who does custodian work. Do you really want to pay someone shitty work who's supposed to like sanitize things?
They're going to be mopping the floor with liquid shit.
That's what they do. When you pay custodians low money, you get that.
How many times have we heard capitalists?
That smelly ass floor. That's what you get when you pay.
How many times have we heard capitalists say you get what you pay for? How many times have we've heard that? Yeah. But you don't want to apply that to, I don't know, the workforce?
Yeah.
If you want to continue to get profits and you want to increase customer engagement and loyalty to your brand, you want to cut corners and pay people the least amount and then expect that the profits are going to keep rolling in?
You can tell when your super is being compensated well. When you're super in your building, you can tell like right away, oh, he's being compensated because that fragrance smells really good when he mops the floor. It smells good. He's actually doing this. He's actually doing that.
The posture he walks around with, he owns the building.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Yeah, hell yeah. And the thing is, like those guys always look like they've got everything under control. They don't got any. There's nothing in their face that says, "Oh, I'm not quite sure."
Yeah.
Right.
You got the super who's like, hiding. You never see them. You call them, they're grumpy.
He's playing cards with the rats in the basement.
He's gambling because obviously he's not making enough money. There's illegal, illicit stuff happening in the basement with his friends because he's not making enough money.
I mean, think about Heisenberg for a second, right? Right? He was this like super, super duper talented chemist, right? Do you think that he was a better teacher before he got the cancer diagnosis or after?
He's probably
right? Because if you're worried about not being killed by a meth-addled, drug dealer guy,
now you have one. You know
what I'm saying? Like before, he was a better teacher. He was able to do his job better as a teacher when he wasn't having the moonlight as a drug dealer.
Yeah, before he was a nice chemistry teacher. Now he's like a sociopath that might kill you out in the streets. So
pretty much. Yeah. Pretty much. So, again, you get what you pay for, right? If you go in on wish.com and bought an iPhone 40 for $15, right?
Rip off South Korean ghetto, like
you know that what you're getting in that box, you'll be lucky if anything gets sent to you at all, right?
That's the stuff
because you went the cheap route.
Yeah.
So let's stop treating our fellow human beings that way and just say, yo, if I want the best service, if I want the best burger, it better be flipped by somebody that's not worried about whether or not they can afford a burger at the place they work at.
Yeah, and that's perfect. That's Black Power Magic Hour on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube and act.tv with 47,000 subscribers. And Dr. Genius, he's live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Hopefully, you guys can help us figure out Discord. But that's Black Power Magic Hour, Dash and Bash.